What happens when a man mocks faith, only to have life humble him completely? Imagine a person so certain of his own intellect, his own power, that he scoffs at anything he cannot see, touch, or calculate. For people like him, spirituality is nothing more than a crutch for the weak, a superstition for the uneducated. Yet sometimes it is the most unyielding hearts that must be broken for the light to get in. This is a story of pride, loss, and ultimately transformation through the unexpected wisdom of Buddhism. Our story begins with a man whose life, by all outward measures, is a resounding success. Born into privilege, he excelled at every turn. School accolades adorned his walls, and prestigious universities welcomed him with open arms. His mind was sharp, analytical, and insatiable. He built a business empire from the ground up, amassing wealth and influence that most could only dream of. His peers admired his intellect, his decisiveness, his relentless drive. In the boardroom, his word was law. At home, his family lived in comfort, his children attended the best schools, and his wife never wanted for anything material. But beneath the surface, there was something else, an unspoken contempt for those who lived differently. Especially, he reserved his scorn for the spiritual. To him, temples were relics, monks were beggars, and prayers were the desperate mutterings of those too weak to shape their own destinies. He would pass by temples and shake his head, muttering sarcastic comments about the monks' idle lives. At social gatherings, he would openly mock friends who spoke of meditation or faith, dismissing their beliefs as fantasy. "Reality is what you make it," he'd say. "If you want something, you work for it. The universe doesn't hand out favors because you chant or meditate." He believed only in logic, control, and the power of his own will, and for a long time the world seemed to reward his arrogance. But life, as it often does, has a way of humbling even the proudest among us. The unraveling began gradually, almost imperceptibly. It started with a betrayal. One of his closest business partners, someone he trusted implicitly, siphoned funds and left the company in shambles. Overnight, the empire he had built began to crumble. Lawsuits followed, investors pulled out, and his name appeared in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. The phone calls stopped, the invitations dried up. The world he had controlled so meticulously was suddenly spinning out of reach. Before he could even catch his breath, a new blow landed. He began to feel unwell, fatigued, short of breath, plagued by mysterious pains. Doctors ran tests, and the diagnosis came back: a rare, debilitating condition with no easy cure. The treatments were grueling, the prognosis uncertain. The man who had prided himself on his strength and self-reliance now found himself at the mercy of doctors, nurses, and medicines. As his health declined, so did his relationships. His temper, once merely sharp, became explosive. He lashed out at his family, blaming them for minor faults, pushing them away in his frustration. His wife, exhausted and heartbroken, withdrew into silence. His children avoided him, fearful of his unpredictable moods. The house, once filled with laughter and life, grew cold and tense. In the depths of despair, with his fortune gone, his health failing, and his family estranged, he found himself alone. It was then, in a moment of utter desperation, that he did something he never thought he would do. He visited a temple. Not out of belief, but out of a desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, there was something he had missed. He entered the temple with skepticism etched on his face. The scent of incense, the quiet chants, the gentle presence of the monks, it all seemed foreign, almost absurd. He sat awkwardly in the corner, watching as others bowed their heads in prayer. He felt nothing but emptiness. Then an old monk approached him. The monk did not speak. He simply offered a cup of tea and sat beside him in silence. The minutes stretched on. The man shifted uncomfortably, expecting some sermon, some attempt at conversion, but the monk remained silent, his presence calm and unhurried. Finally, as the tea cooled, the monk spoke a single sentence: "Pride blinds the soul. Only when the cup is empty can it be filled." The words lingered in the air, simple yet profound. The man found himself returning to the temple, drawn not by faith but by curiosity. Each time the monk greeted him with the same gentle silence, the same unspoken acceptance. Gradually the man began to listen, not just to the monk, but to the quiet around him, to the rhythm of his own breath, to the thoughts and emotions he had long suppressed. He started to read Buddhist teachings, to meditate, to sit in stillness. At first, it was uncomfortable, even maddening. His mind raced, his body fidgeted, but over time something began to shift. The walls he had built around his heart started to crack. He saw, for the first time, the pain his pride had caused, not just to himself, but to those he loved. He realized that his relentless need for control had been a prison, not a source of freedom. The more he tried to dominate life, the more it slipped through his fingers. In meditation, he learned to let go, to surrender to the present moment. He discovered a peace that had nothing to do with wealth or power, a quiet joy that arose from simply being. His transformation was not immediate, nor was it easy. There were setbacks, moments of doubt, days when old habits resurfaced. But each time, he returned to the temple, to the monk's gentle presence, to the teachings that had begun to take root in his heart. Slowly, he became kinder, more patient. He apologized to his family, not with grand gestures, but with small acts of humility, listening, helping, simply being present. His wife, seeing the change, began to open up again. His children, cautiously at first, returned to his side. The home grew warmer, filled once more with laughter and love. His health, though still fragile, stabilized. He learned to accept his limitations, to live each day with gratitude rather than resentment. His business fortunes were not fully restored, but he no longer measured his worth by his bank account. He found fulfillment in new ways, volunteering at the temple, supporting others who struggled, sharing his story with those who would listen. In time, he became a speaker, traveling to temples and community centers to share his journey. He spoke not as a guru, but as a fellow traveler, a man who had been broken by life, and in that breaking, had found something deeper. He told audiences about the emptiness of pride, the futility of control, and the unexpected freedom that comes from surrender. He spoke of the old monk's words, "Only when the cup is empty can it be filled." He explained how suffering, though painful, can be a doorway to awakening, how sometimes it is only when life strips us of everything we thought we needed that we discover what truly matters. He encouraged others to look beyond the surface, to question their own assumptions, to be open to the possibility that there is more to life than logic and control. He reminded them that humility is not weakness, but strength. The strength to admit we do not have all the answers. The courage to open our hearts to something greater. His story became a source of inspiration for many. People who had lost hope found comfort in his words. Those struggling with pride or pain saw themselves in his journey. He became, in a way, a bridge, connecting the world of logic and ambition with the world of faith and surrender. Through it all, he remained a student, always learning, always growing. He understood that transformation is not a destination, but a lifelong journey. He continued to meditate, to serve, to seek wisdom wherever he could find it. And though he had once mocked the very things that now gave his life meaning, he felt no shame, only gratitude. For he knew that sometimes life breaks us open not to punish, but to awaken, that in the emptiness there is room for something new to grow. So as you listen to this story, consider your own journey. Have you ever been humbled by life in ways that led you to something greater? Have you faced moments when everything you relied on was stripped away, leaving you raw and vulnerable? If so, know that you are not alone. These moments, though painful, can be the seeds of transformation. If this story resonated with you, take a moment to reflect. Perhaps share your own experience in the comments, or reach out to someone who might need encouragement. And if you'd like to hear more stories of awakening and karma, consider subscribing and joining us on this journey of discovery. Remember, sometimes it is in our greatest losses that we find our truest selves, and sometimes the path to freedom begins with the simple act of emptying our cup.